This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello and welcome to ESL Listening Practice.
It's great to be here.
I am so happy that you decided to tune in today because we are going to be talking about something that I think every single language learner, without exception, has experienced.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal feeling.
It is, but it's something very few people actually know how to fix. It's that specific, really frustrating, and honestly sometimes heartbreaking moment. You're trying to listen to English, maybe it's a podcast, a video, a movie, and you start off feeling great, you're motivated, you're ready to learn, but then just a few minutes in, you hit a wall.
It is the classic hurdle, especially for learners who've gotten to that intermediate, that B2 level.
Yeah.
You have the knowledge, but not the endurance. You start with this high energy, but then the focus it evaporates.
Exactly. It's that feeling where maybe 5 or 10 minutes in, your brain just feels physically heavy.
Yeah.
It feels exhausted. And suddenly what was, clear English speech just turns into a wall of sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the signal just drops out completely. You catch yourself staring at the wall and you realize you haven't actually heard a single word of what was said for the last 2 minutes.
Sound becomes noise. I think that's the perfect way to describe it.
That's it.
Your focus completely disappears, your level of comprehension just drops off a cliff, and that's usually followed almost immediately by a feeling of frustration.
Oh, the frustration is huge.
Yeah, and anxiety, or even this sense of failure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
The internal monologue starts going immediately. You start thinking, why can't I understand this? My English must be terrible.
I'll never get this.
I've been studying for years and I can't even watch a 10-minute video.
Yeah.
You start blaming yourself, but the whole mission of our conversation today is to tell you, stop that.
Please stop.
Stop blaming yourself immediately.
Right. Because if you take nothing else away from what we talk about today, I really want you to understand one thing very, very clearly. This mental exhaustion is normal.
100% normal.
It does not mean your English skills are bad. It doesn't mean you're failing. And it definitely doesn't mean you lack some kind of talent for languages.
So if it's not failure and it's not, a lack of intelligence, what exactly is going on here? What is happening in my brain?
It is, quite simply, a stamina issue. It just means your listening stamina is still under construction. You're in the process of building it. And just like physical stamina in a sport, there are, real biological and cognitive reasons why it runs out. You wouldn't blame yourself for not being able to run a marathon without any training, right?
Of course not.
And you shouldn't blame yourself for this either.
I love that we are framing this as stamina. It takes the pressure off immediately.
It should.
It's not about how smart you are. It's about your current endurance level. So today we are going to build a kind of comprehensive roadmap. We're going to look at exactly why this happens, the diagnosis, if you will, and then we're going to give you the specific strategies to fix it.
The step-by-step plan.
We want you to be able to last longer in English without feeling like your brain is melting out of your ears.
And we're going to get into some really interesting areas. We'll look at the concept of cognitive load. We'll use a very helpful muscle analogy, which I think really clarifies things.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll discuss the critical, and I mean critical, importance of interest. And we'll break down some specific techniques, like the difference between active and passive listening. It's a full guide to getting past that 10-minute wall.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. Let's start with that diagnosis. Why does my brain hurt after listening to a foreign language for 15 minutes? I mean, what is it that makes it so much more tiring than listening to my native language?
Okay, so it all comes down to something that cognitive scientists call cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Or, to put it a lot more simply, your brain is doing a massive amount of extra work that you aren't even consciously aware of.
So it's happening in the background.
Completely in the background. It feels like you're just sitting there just listening, but your brain is actually running a full-on marathon.
Extra work.
Yeah.
Okay, can you break that down for us? What is happening under the hood?
Yeah, of course. Think about it this way. When you listen to your native language, the process is incredibly streamlined. It's efficient. You hear the sound, and you instantly, without any effort, understand the meaning.
Right?
It's a direct line from A to B. There is almost zero friction in that process.
Right. I don't have to think about the grammar or the vocabulary.
Yeah.
If you say the word apple, I just see an apple in my head. I don't have to process the word apple or wonder if it's a fruit or a piece of furniture. It's just instantaneous.
Exactly. But for a language learner, especially at that intermediate stage, that process is not a direct line. Not at all. It's more like a 3-step obstacle course that you're running over and over again.
An obstacle course. Okay. What's the first obstacle?
Step 1. You just hear the sounds. Your brain is physically processing the raw audio. It's trying to distinguish where one word ends and the next one begins.
Which can be really, really hard in English because we link words together so much.
So much.
What are you up to? Becomes what chopto.
Yeah.
It's just one continuous sound.
Precisely. So that alone is already an energy cost. Your brain is working to decode that string of sound into separate units.
Okay, so that's step 1.
Then comes step 2, which is maybe the biggest energy drain of all. You are translating.
The translation trap. I know it well.
Yes. Almost all learners, until they reach a very, very high level of fluency, are subconsciously taking that English sound, converting it into their native language to make sense of it.
And only then do you move on.
And then you move on to step 3.
Which is figuring out what it actually means in the context of the sentence.
Correct. Step 3 is the search for meaning. You're fitting that translated word into the sentence structure. You're looking at the grammar. You're trying to predict what comes next based on the context. So instead of that simple native speaker process of hearing and understanding,
I'm hearing, decoding the sounds, translating to my language, processing the context, and then finally understanding.
Exactly.
So I'm doing 5 things at once while the speaker just keeps talking, getting further and further ahead of me.
Precisely. You are running this triple marathon constantly while a native speaker is just taking a casual walk in the park. You're constantly decoding. What was that word? How does it fit with the previous word? What's the grammar structure here? And you're doing this hundreds and hundreds of times per minute.
That sounds exhausting, just hearing you explain it. It really makes sense now why I feel like I need a nap after a serious listening session.
It is physically and mentally hard work. Your brain is an organ, right? It consumes energy. Specifically, it consumes glucose,
sugar,
and oxygen.
Yeah.
When you are doing this high-intensity mental processing, your brain is burning through its fuel at a rapid rate to keep those 3 steps running simultaneously. That is why you get tired. It's not because you're not smart enough. It's because you are doing 3 times the work of a native speaker.
And I think that's such a validating thing to hear. It really is. Because when you're in the middle of it, you just feel slow.
Yeah.
You feel like, I should know this. This should be easier. But realizing that my brain is actually running this incredibly complex algorithm in the background, it makes me feel a bit better about needing a break.
It should. It absolutely should. And this is where we really need to distinguish between the native process and the learner process. Native speakers don't translate. They just understand. That translation step is the real energy killer. It creates a latency, a delay in your comprehension, and a massive energy drain.
So the ultimate goal, eventually, is to stop translating.
That's the holy grail, yes.
But we know that takes a very long time.
Yeah.
In the meantime, while we are still stuck in this translation phase, how do we manage the fatigue? Because it feels physical. My head actually hurts sometimes.
It feels physical because it is physical. The brain is a biological organ. And that brings us perfectly to our second big concept for today, the physiology of listening. We need to treat building our listening stamina exactly like we treat building muscle at the gym.
Okay, I really like this analogy. I'm a big fan of gym metaphors because I think everyone understands that you can't just walk into a gym and lift a car on your first day.
No.
It takes time, it takes repetition, it takes patience to build that strength.
Exactly. Imagine you have never been to a gym in your entire life. You walk in on day 1. Would you walk up to the heaviest weight in the room, let's say 100 kilograms, and try to lift it for an hour?
No way. I'd hurt myself. Seriously, I'd be sore for a week. And I'd probably quit immediately.
Yeah.
Because it would be so painful and so discouraging.
You would definitely quit. But this is exactly what so many English learners do with listening.
It's true.
They say, okay, I want to improve my listening, so they find a 1-hour podcast or a 2-hour movie, and they force themselves to try and listen to the whole thing.
Guilty. I have definitely done that. I've thought, I'm going to watch this whole documentary in French without subtitles. And then 20 minutes in, I'm either asleep or I'm scrolling on my phone, and then I just feel like I failed.
And that is the exact equivalent of trying to bench press 100 kilograms on your very first day. You're forcing long videos or long audio on a brain that has not built the muscle for it yet. You are training to failure every single time, which only leads to burnout and frustration.
So if we are treating this like a gym workout, what is the correct routine? What's the smart training plan? If I'm hitting that wall at 10 minutes, what should I be doing instead of just pushing through?
You need a strategy of what's called progressive overload. This is a standard concept in fitness, and it applies perfectly to this. You have to start short, surprisingly short.
How short are we talking? Give us a number.
Okay, if you are struggling with that 10-minute wall, if you find yourself zoning out around that time, I want you to start with 5 to 10 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 to 10, that's it.
Okay, that feels almost too easy. I think a lot of people might feel like they aren't studying enough if they only do 5 minutes. There's this no pain, no gain mentality. They feel like they need to suffer for it to count.
But that is the trap. That is the thinking that leads to quitting. It is so much better to have 5 to 10 minutes of high-quality, focused listening where you actually understand what's happening than 60 minutes of just noise where you zoned out 40 minutes ago and you're just feeling bad about yourself.
Quality over quantity. That makes perfect sense. It's better to do 5 good push-ups with perfect form than 50 terrible ones where you end up hurting your back.
Absolutely. So here is the prescription, the actual plan. For the first week, I want you to listen for 5 to 10 minutes only, once a day. Allow your brain to get used to that level of effort without reaching total exhaustion.
Okay, so week 1 is just 10-minute sessions, maybe listening to a short YouTube video or just, the first 10 minutes of a podcast. Then what happens?
Then you apply the progression. After 1 week of that, if you feel comfortable and you aren't getting that headache or that foggy feeling, you bump it up. You increase it to 15 minutes.
Okay.
And you do that for another week. After 2 weeks of 15 minutes, you try for 20.
So you're just slowly, gradually adding a little more weight to the bar each week.
Exactly. You're conditioning your brain to handle that cognitive load for longer and longer periods. You are training that translation muscle to become more efficient, to work for longer before it gets tired.
I think the hardest part of this for a lot of people will be the discipline to actually stop.
Yes.
Because sometimes you want to keep going or you feel like you should finish the episode, but you're saying it's actually better for your long-term progress to stop while you still have some energy left in the tank.
Yes. You want to end on a high note. You have to keep the experience positive.
That's a good point.
If you always push until you are frustrated and have a headache, your brain starts to build an association. It associates English listening with pain and boredom. But if you stop at 10 minutes and you think, hey, I did that, I listened for 10 minutes, I understood most of it, I feel good, that feeling encourages you to come back and do it again tomorrow.
That is a huge psychological shift. I mean, it's moving from studying until I drop to training smart. It changes the whole vibe of learning from a chore to a practice.
It's the only way to build long-term sustainable stamina. Consistency beats intensity every single time. A little bit every day is so much more powerful than a lot once a week.
Now, speaking of staying motivated and keeping it positive, that feels like a perfect transition to our third section, the fuel.
Yes.
Because you can have the best workout plan in the world, the most perfect progressive overload schedule, but if you hate the exercise, you are not going to do it for long.
This is absolutely critical. We talked about cognitive load, all that energy your brain spends just processing the language, but there is a way to hack that energy consumption.
A hack. Okay, I'm listening.
And the hack is interest. Genuine, authentic interest.
So interest equals energy. I love this concept.
It's a simple equation, but it's incredibly powerful. We have to look at content selection. There is a direct scientific relationship between boredom and fatigue.
Okay.
If the topic you are listening to is boring, maybe it's a dry textbook dialogue about buying a train ticket or a news report about an economic policy you don't care about, your brain is going to fatigue much, much faster.
Right, because you are fighting two battles at once. You are fighting the language barrier, and you are fighting your own boredom. You have to physically force yourself to pay attention.
Exactly. You are doubling the cognitive load. You're spending energy on the language, and you're spending energy just trying to stay awake.
Yeah.
But if you are listening to something you are genuinely fascinated by, something you would listen to in your own language, something magical happens psychologically.
What's that?
The emotional investment you have in the story or the topic, it actually overrides some of the cognitive load.
I have totally experienced this. I remember I was listening to a true crime podcast in a language I was learning. It was really hard. And I didn't know all the words for, detective or evidence, but I needed to know who the killer was.
Yes.
I was so invested in the story that I stopped noticing how hard my brain was working. I just wanted to get to the end.
That is the perfect example. Your desire to know what happens next provides a surge of chemicals like dopamine and adrenaline in your brain that fuels your focus. You literally have more stamina because you care about the outcome. Your brain prioritizes the information because it deems it relevant and exciting, not just homework.
So for our listeners out there, what should they be consuming? What's on the menu to build this interest-fueled stamina?
My advice is to throw away the boring educational materials if they're putting you to sleep. Just for now.
Permission to abandon the textbook.
Permission granted. Look for podcasts you actually like. And I don't just mean learning English podcasts, but podcasts about topics you are passionate about. If you love football, listen to football commentary. If you love cooking, watch cooking shows.
TV shows are great for this too, right?
Yes.
Because you get the visual context, which helps with comprehension.
TV shows are excellent. And any topics you inherently care about. If you are a software engineer, listen to tech news in English. If you are an artist, listen to interviews with painters. The vocabulary will be immediately relevant to you, and the interest will keep your brain awake and engaged.
It seems so obvious when you say it, but so many of us get stuck in this mindset that we have to listen to serious study material.
Yeah, the good-for-you material.
Exactly, the broccoli of language learning. But what you're saying is that a gossip channel or a video game streamer might actually be better for your stamina if that's what keeps you listening.
I can say with absolute validity that if it keeps your headphones on for 20 minutes instead of 5, it is better material, period.
That's a great rule.
The best learning resource is the one you actually use.
So find what you love. That's the fuel.
We've been talking a lot about building endurance through what is mostly a relaxed, passive main idea approach, but to really sharpen your ears and accelerate your progress, you do need some high-intensity training.
But we have to be careful with it, right? Because, as we've established, high intensity is tiring.
Correct. This is why we call it the sometimes rule. You should not do this for your whole 20-minute session. This is like doing a few sprints during your long-distance jog. You don't sprint the whole marathon.
So what does active listening look like in this context? Can you give us some specific exercises to try?
Yeah. Active listening here means you are physically engaging with the audio. It's not just washing over you while you do the dishes. You are doing something with it. 2 great simple exercises are writing down keywords and a technique called shadowing.
Okay, let's break those down. Writing down keywords. How does that work?
It's simple. You play a short piece of audio, maybe 30 seconds, and every time you hear a significant content word like a noun, a main verb, a name, a number, you jot it down. You don't try to transcribe the whole sentence.
No, that would be impossible.
Impossible. You're just catching the anchors of the sentence. This forces your brain to isolate individual sounds and identify them rapidly. It really trains your parsing skills.
And shadowing. I've heard this term a lot, but what is it exactly?
Shadowing is when you repeat short phrases out loud immediately after you hear them. The speaker says, "The weather is quite nice today," and you instantly say, "The weather is quite nice today," trying to match their speed, their rhythm, their intonation. You are literally their shadow or their echo.
That sounds incredibly difficult. It feels like it would require 100% of my attention.
It is. It is very, very demanding. It requires total focus. But that's why it trains your focus so well. It forces your brain to process the language at the speed of a native speaker without any time for translation.
Ah, so it helps break the translation habit?
Exactly. But, and this is the crucial caveat, it is exhausting.
So you can't do this for 20 minutes straight?
Oh, no. You will burn out in 5, maybe less. We recommend doing this once a day for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, or just for one small segment of a podcast you're listening to. Pick one paragraph and shadow it.
So it's the high-intensity interval training, the HIET workout, for your ears.
That's the perfect analogy. You mix it in with your relaxed listening. If you try to do active listening all the time, you will burn out and you will hate listening. But if you never do it, you might find your progress stalls.
Okay, so find the balance.
It's all about finding that balance. Mostly relaxed, main idea listening, sprinkled with these short, intense bursts of active listening.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a well-rounded routine. So what does this all mean for the listener who's with us right now? Let's try to synthesize this entire conversation into a final truth. One core idea to take away.
Okay. The final truth is a formula, and it's a simple one. Short sessions plus daily practice plus enjoyable content beats long, tired, frustrating sessions every single time.
I'm going to repeat that because it's really important. Short plus daily plus enjoyable is greater than long and tired.
That is the fundamental math of sustainable language learning. Consistency wins over intensity. If you listen for 15 minutes every single day with enjoyment, you will go so much further than the person who binges for 3 hours once a week and absolutely hates every minute of it.
And the promise here, the light at the end of the tunnel, is that this works, right? This isn't just a nice theory.
It is a biological fact. Your listening stamina grows naturally with the right training, just like any other muscle. It's an adaptation. If you follow this roadmap, I promise you, you will notice a change.
What will that feel like?
One day, maybe in a few weeks or a few months, you'll suddenly realize that you've been listening for 20 minutes or 25, and you haven't translated a single word in your head. You haven't felt that headache coming on. You just understood.
That is the dream. To get to that point of flow where the language just enters your brain effortlessly without all that hard work.
And you will get there. It just takes patience and the right strategy. You have to trust the process and stop forcing it.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Be patient with yourself. You're building a muscle, and muscles don't grow overnight. But if you train them correctly, they do grow.
They absolutely do. Just keep showing up, keep it short, and most importantly, keep it fun.
Thank you so much for listening to ESL Listening Practice today. We really hope this gives you a new, more compassionate perspective on those moments when your brain feels tired. Don't quit. Just rest, reset, and go again tomorrow.
Until next time.
Bye for now.